The U.S. military is currently taking some rather extreme, highly kinetic measures to forcibly pry open the Straits of Hormuz. Looking at the latest CENTCOM intelligence drops, we are seeing fresh imagery of the EA-18G Growler, which means there are aviators out there right now turning multi-million-dollar Iranian coastal radars into extremely expensive, highly radioactive paperweights. Make sure you are subscribed to Titan Mechanics and hit that bell icon so you never miss a critical military intel update. And let us know where you stand right now in the comments. Drop a 5 if you stand with the US, press 6 if you back Iran, or hit 7 if you just want peace. Now, let's look at the intel. While the strait is still stubbornly closed, CENTCOM is officially taking it up a level, focusing on opening the waterway by systematically blinding the overlapping radar networks the IRGC uses to spot and target incoming commercial vessels. Team this electronic dominance up with the USS Tripoli, an amphibious assault ship currently loitering in the region with the Marine Expeditionary Unit, F-35B stealth fighters, and CV-22 Ospreys. Does this imply a limited ground invasion to physically secure the Straits of Hormuz? Stay until the end of the briefing, because we are going to unpack exactly what all of this strategic posturing means. The EA-18G Growler teamed up with the USS Tripoli might just be the exact tactical combo required to crack the straits wide open. Add in A-10 Warthogs and AH-64 Apaches executing low-altitude strafing runs on loitering munitions, and the ability to track underwater unmanned vehicles, which happen to be a favorite in Iran's asymmetric proxy warfare playbook. And you have a massive piece of the geopolitical puzzle. We are also looking at advanced drones scanning the sea, potentially next-generation autonomous assets like the Anduril Fury or Shield AI's VTOL platforms. While not officially confirmed in theater, having AI-driven collaborative combat aircraft in the airspace to detect UUVs and autonomous seabed systems would elevate this operation to a whole new level. Is opening the strait mission impossible? Stay with me. The undisputed star of this electronic show is the two-seat electronic attack beast, a Super Hornet derivative that packs the AN/ALQ-218 receiver system and radar warning receivers integrated directly into its wingtips. It is currently flying with 4 AGM-88G advanced anti-radiation guided missiles, clearly visible in the recent CENTCOM imagery. The entire operational goal of these missiles is to guide directly onto any enemy emitter that dares to light up, specifically the radars actively targeting commercial shipping. And frankly, while the EA-18G Growler is heavily loaded with harms, it rarely even has to fire them. Its electronic attack capability is so utterly overwhelming that it simply projects concentrated electromagnetic energy toward these radars, and the Iranian operators turn their own systems off in a sheer panic. It is the tactical equivalent of saying, "We don't want to eat a supersonic anti-radiation missile today, so we'll just unplug the monitors and go home." The Growler is executing its core mission to pry open the Straits of Hormuz, and what it does next is going to challenge absolutely everything you thought you knew about electronic warfare. But first, some breaking geopolitical news. President Trump just delivered a primetime address declaring that the strategic operation will end shortly. Meanwhile, Tehran vehemently denies requesting any ceasefire, while simultaneously staging what appears to be mandatory government appreciation rallies. The Iranian regime is essentially telling its citizens, "Come celebrate us," and attendance is totally optional, assuming you don't mind a kinetic payload delivered straight to your living room. The citizens in the footage possess the exact level of enthusiasm you would expect from people being held at gunpoint. It is the ultimate display of desperation from a collapsing regime trying to project legitimacy, even as their actual authority evaporates by the hour. Over the last 12 hours, the U.S. has hammered even more high-value targets in Tehran, specifically targeting deep ballistic missile production nodes. Naturally, immediately following the president's speech, the IRGC launched a desperate volley of ballistic missiles and drones at America's Gulf partners. Coalition air defenses successfully intercepted the vast majority of that barrage. The overarching strategy here is painfully clear: swat down Iran's desperate missile volleys, and ruthlessly focus the EA-18G Growlers and the USS Tripoli's F-35Bs on opening the Straits of Hormuz by blinding the coastal defense networks. Maintaining absolute air superiority along that coastline is critical. You have F-15E Strike Eagles up high, Air Force and Navy F-35S pushing the stealth perimeter, and now F-35B squadrons launching directly off the USS Tripoli. The sole objective is to unchoke that maritime checkpoint and permanently neutralize Iran's ability to threaten global energy transit. Because nobody wants to navigate a multi-million-dollar oil tanker through a gauntlet of loitering munitions just to earn their hazard pay. The EA-18G Growler is right in the thick of it, dynamically creating invisible electronic corridors through the narrow waterways between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula by completely blinding coastal sensors with full-spectrum jamming. With the USS Tripoli now on station functioning as a lightning carrier packing up to 20 F-35B stealth fighters, CENTCOM possesses sea-based fifth-generation punch right on Iran's doorstep, complementing the Navy's assets aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. Furthermore, these F-35S can launch AGM-158JASSM stealth cruise missiles to obliterate the exact radar sites the Growlers detect. The Growler sniffs out the coastal emissions, passes the targeting data via data link, and an F-35 deletes the grid square with a JASSM. Or the Growler simply handles it in-house with its own HARM missiles. Add the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit with 2,200 combat-ready Marines, and Washington has terrifying flexibility for coastal work, amphibious raids, or limited boots on the ground. Now that you see the strategic pieces moving on the board, wait until you hear how spectacularly Iran is struggling to maintain its facade. The IRGC is still talking big. After the president's speech, an IRGC spokesperson, a job title with a life expectancy currently measured in days, swore that escalated, asymmetric retaliations will continue until the US and Israel permanently surrender. They labeled reopening the strait irrational and claimed the fight continues until absolute victory. We are witnessing massive splinters within the regime itself. Who is actually in charge? Who is this spokesperson even speaking for? At this point, the IRGC High Command is likely just drawing straws. Congratulations, you got the short straw. You're the Supreme Commander this week. Good luck surviving the drone strike. Talk is incredibly cheap when your Navy is rusting on the seafloor, your Air Force is a museum exhibit, and your missile production nodes have been permanently neutralized. However, residual asymmetric threats do remain. The strait remains closed primarily due to the psychological intimidation factor and the IRGC's remaining anti-ship missile stockpiles. This is precisely where Iran's coastal radars and surviving command and control infrastructure come into play. Their command and control is currently two guys in a bunker wondering why their screens are flashing error codes in binary. But they can still sporadically spot commercial ships and attempt to coordinate fast attack craft. We have mapped these coastal areas extensively during our live streams, and hundreds of these fast attack craft likely survived the initial wave. They remain a credible asymmetric threat, but they are entirely dependent on shore-based radars for targeting telemetry. The IRGC has scattered these launchers along the tight waterway, desperately disguising them as civilian infrastructure or merchant vessels. This is exactly why the Growler is the ultimate trump card, reaching out and touching those emitters before they can physically lock onto commercial shipping or U.S. naval assets. The Growler slides deep into heavily contested airspace and ensures the environment is sanitized. Now, imagine what happens when the Growlers start pumping maximum electronic energy into the spectrum. During his primetime address, President Trump reiterated the core geopolitical objectives: obliterate Iran's ballistic missile and drone production, wipe out its naval and aerial capabilities, sever the proxy networks, and permanently eliminate any potential for nuclear weaponization. He classified the results as swift, decisive, and overwhelming, stating the U.S. will finalize the operational objectives within the next 2 to 3 weeks via overwhelming American air power. The diplomatic gloves are officially off. We will likely see the regime's fiery rhetoric continue until the surviving IRGC core realizes the gig is entirely up, or until a transitional government actively takes control. A scenario Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth strongly hinted at. At the end of the day, it appears the Ayatollah class is being forcibly relegated to the back seat. Additionally, recent CENTCOM imagery confirms Growlers are launching from the supercarriers carrying incredibly heavy SEAD loadouts. Suppression of enemy air defenses. A heavy SEAD loadout proves that lethal electronic attack missions are highly active over Iranian airspace right now. The strait is not completely secure yet, despite reports of over 20 Western-aligned ships transiting. That may have simply been a localized sign of good faith from a fracturing Iranian command structure. Safe transit remains too risky for standard tankers, especially with unmanned underwater vehicles prowling the depths. But every jammed radar and vaporized launcher brings the U.S. one step closer to absolute maritime dominance. The EA-18G Growler's jamming tactics represent pure American electronic supremacy. It boasts a maximum external payload of roughly 17,000 pounds across 9 hardpoints. A typical SEAD loadout includes 4 AGM-88 anti-radiation missiles that possess the terrifying ability to hunt radars even after the enemy powers them down. The Iranian operator shuts off the radar thinking he's safe, and the HARM missile simply remembers the exact GPS coordinates of the emission and detonates anyway. The Growler also carries AIM-120 AMRAAMs for self-defense, external drop tanks for loiter time, and up to 5 ALQ-99 or next-generation jammer midband pods that absolutely flood the electromagnetic spectrum. This effectively shuts down IRGC communications, leaving isolated bunker crews talking to themselves. Here is exactly how the Growler pries open the Straits of Hormuz. The 2-person crew utilizes the ALQ-218 receivers to passively detect, identify, and geolocate every single Iranian coastal radar, anti-ship battery, and command link in real time without emitting a single watt of energy themselves. Once the threat matrix is mapped, the Growler lights it up. Noise jamming overloads enemy screens with electronic garbage. Deception jamming creates dozens of phantom targets that completely scramble missile guidance, and precision spot jamming burns straight through specific frequency bands. This carves invisible, highly secure electronic corridors along the Iranian shoreline. Anti-ship missiles fail to lock. Coastal radars cannot vector fast attack craft. Shore-based launchers are rendered deaf and blind, and the Growler doesn't just jam and run. It loiters dynamically, instantly adjusting its output to counter frequency hopping attempts, while its anti-radiation missiles stand by to deliver permanent kinetic solutions. When you team the Growler up with the USS Tripoli, you enter a geopolitical masterclass in 4D chess. 20 F-35B Lightnings bring stealth precision strikes and unmatched ISR, while MV-22 Ospreys facilitate rapid coastal raids if the Marines need to kick down some doors. The Growler sanitizes the airspace for these assets to operate with impunity. Now, factor in advanced drones like the autonomous Anduril Fury or Shield AI's VTOL platforms. While highly classified, if AI-piloted collaborative combat aircraft were introduced to team up with the F-35Bs, they could act as decoys, execute high-risk strikes, or tirelessly scan the ocean surface to detect autonomous UUVs. Owning the aerospace, dominating the electromagnetic spectrum, and controlling the ocean all the way down to the seabed is exactly how the U.S. military dismantles an adversary. The Growler, the F-35, and autonomous drone swarms are systematically jamming Iranian defenses until their radar screens look like a broken 1980s arcade game. So, what happens next? Do you assess the Straits of Hormuz will be fully secured within the next 2 weeks? Or will CENTCOM deploy amphibious marines to physically occupy strategic coastal choke points? Let me know your tactical assessments in the comments below. I would love to read your analysis. As a reminder, all tactical analysis and intelligence provided on Titan Mechanics is strictly for educational and documentary purposes. We analyze geopolitical strategy and military hardware based on publicly available open-source data. We do not glorify conflict or incite real-world action. Stay informed, stay analytical, and we will see you on the next briefing.